2 p.m. on February 26th. Lake Mountain School District are going to have our study session. We're super excited tonight because we have lots of fun presentations that we're really looking forward to. First up, we are going to hear a presentation about ATech West, and then that'll be followed by a presentation about world languages and then transportation. So, Lori, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for letting us be here from ATech West. I'm Lori Crandall, the director there. This is my first year there. I'm so excited that to be with them. Previously, I was a psychologist, had worked with this population before. We have this thought that a lot of people in this room, even though you visited our place and know some of our students, may not fully understand all that we do at ATech West. Today, we're going to brag about ourselves a little bit. We're going to tell you what we do and what we accomplish there. We're going to talk about the who, the what, and the how a little bit. The who is we serve adults that are ages 18 to 22 years old. They transition to us from Westlake High School and from Cedar Valley High School. Most of our students come from life skills units. Some come from ED or behavior units, and a few are resource students that were self-contained. And all of our students, for whatever reason, were unable to earn a regular high school diploma. So with us, they have 4 years to work towards what we call a certificate of completion when they graduate from us after 4 years. That's when their IEPs expire. And we will at that time have helped them make connection with community organizations, and they will continue to receive accommodations under what we call a 504 plan. However, our goal at ATech West is to do much, much more than to accommodate their access to the community. Our goal is to help our students to become functioning adults so that they can make contributions to the community. That's who we are. What we do is our students have experience K through 12, focusing on goals in their IEPs for reading, writing, and math. In post-high, we write IEP goals that are less focused on reading, writing, and math, unless it's something that is for practical purposes. Instead, we highlight the 4 domains that are mandated by the post-school outcomes survey that comes out by the state every year. The post-school outcomes domains are employment, education and training, independent living skills, and community involvement. So when we write an IEP goal, they all have goals in those 4 areas. So for example, in employment, we begin with large range exposure to different job opportunities, exploring their interests. And as we hone in on their interests, we focus more and more on building a resume and finding a customized job position for them. It's a pretty complex job that we do in helping get their interests from students, their goals, and helping find community organizations that are willing to work with us and do that. In education and training, we help our students learn important self-advocacy skills. And then we give them step-by-step instructions. That's what's in their IEP goals, step-by-step instructions to perform common tasks that would be in their jobs of interest. In fact, everything has step-by-step in our IEPs. So like in independent living skills for that goal, it might be a simple hygiene skill. It might be common cleaning tasks like laundry. How do you sort clothes? How do you start the washer? How do you transfer to the dryer? How do you fold? How do you put away? These goals, that's what's in their IEP goals. For example, how to read a recipe, how to follow and measure, how to purchase those things, how to cook simple meals for yourself. In community involvement, we help our students gain social skills to interact with others. We provide them with opportunities to give back to the community, give service at retirement homes, at the animal rescue. Those are just a few of the many, many different ways that we write goals in those 4 domains. But I hope you noticed how we largely focus on the students' interests. Tonight, we have 2 students here that will talk about their interests and how their IEP led to them doing what they really wanted to do. So now we're going to go on to the how. How do we do all this complicated work? We have to be extremely organized, and I have to tell you, it is glorious what we can accomplish in our small space. So that's what we're going to talk about now.
It is glorious. We have an exceptional program at ATech West in every sense of the word. So what I'm about to show you is our job site board. This is what we live by. So all students at ATech West, regardless of their disability, have the opportunity to try 2 different jobs every day. And we call these job experiences internships. You might see on our job board a lot going on, so let's explain. Each of the colors represent the class that the student belongs to. And then on the left, we have what job site they're going to go to. So our program is largely around, built around their job site experiences. So in the morning, they'll go to a job site, and in the afternoon, they'll go to a job site. And we have a variety of job experiences. Some are on campus and some are off campus. And this accommodates for students of all ability levels. On campus, you might find jobs like cooking to sell baked goods or crafting to sell crafts to the public. In the off-campus job sites, you'll find things like students working at grocery stores, at movie theaters, at DI and museums, and a whole host more. So at the end of each semester, then they switch and they get to try 2 new jobs in the second semester. So every student gets to try 4 different jobs every school year. So at the end of their 4-year experience at ATech, they will have tried 16 different jobs. This requires a ton of coordination, and we're going to go into that later. But we have to make considerations for how are they going to be transported to these different jobs, who's going to take them, what coaches are going to be present with them. So we have a total of 15 on-campus job sites in our satellite. And these are the 15 sites that we offer. We also have 16 off-campus job sites, 2 of which are not a single job site, but have job sites within the job site. And we're going to invite Jeannie up to explain a little bit more about job exploration and customized employment.
Okay, so at ATech West, we have 2 specialized job experiences to help students or the interns find their voice, place, and purpose. So during their 3rd year in the program, students take a class that's called Job Exploration. So in Job Exploration, the students identify 20 businesses that they would like to learn about. And then throughout this semester, we visit as many places as we can through job tours. This gives the students firsthand experience of what it might be like to work at those businesses and helps them identify their theme. Then during their 3rd or 4th year in the program, we have our students take customized employment. In customized employment, the students are placed in individualized job internships to gain real job experience. This year, we've had 14 interns go through customized employment experiences. So here are a few examples of our amazing interns. This is Isabel. Isabel had experience to work in a restaurant. Emma and Kenley have been working at 2 different schools as teacher's aides. Daniel and Joshua have been working at the public library. And Nicoan has been working at a horse boarding facility. And Nicoan is actually here with us today to share his story.
Hi, my name is Nicoan. I'm currently working at Jefferson Stables. I'm part Indian, part cowboy, and I'm a really hard worker, and I work on a farm. So the farm I work at is called Jefferson Stables. It's kind of it's good enough for me because I'm an independent worker. I learned how to work on machinery, and drive them. I ride a horse. I can ride a horse, and I learn how to take care of the animals. I can feed them. I can water them. I take care of them until they can be in shape to help people ride them better. I think Sheriff Stables is a great job for me, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you for having me talk to you guys today.
Hi, my name is Sherry Williams. As you have heard, we have over 31 on and off job sites. And in our current job exploration, we have 14 job sites, and every day, every week, it continually grows. We heavily depend on our school bus garage to come to our school 4 times a day to transport students in the morning and the afternoon to their job sites. However, due to the limitations of buses, we are not always able to transport wheelchair-bound students. We have currently 4 vehicles that out of the 4, we have 2 that we can actually transport up to 3 students at a time. As you can see, among our 90 students, and not counting the growth that we get every year, we are in desperate need for additional transportation where we're able to give every student their dream and opportunity to learn and be out in their community.
So we're going to turn over to talking about coaches. And I'm really passionate about this because I'm a first-year teacher. And before becoming a teacher, I worked as a job coach at ATEC West. So our job coaches take data, administer medication, support behavior and emotional needs, drive and transport students, and are first responders for medical emergencies. Our coaches clock in when interns arrive and clock out when students get on the bus. Lori, our admin, reached out to Royd and Lucas, and we're grateful this year that we were allocated 12 hours per paraeducator for additional training. We've used this to teach our coaches on medical training, such as what to do when we have seizures in our classrooms, or what do we do when we have students that have feeding tubes and how can we support them. When we talk about safety training, we have students with BIPs, so they might have behaviors that need extra support. And we also talk about our classroom training on how we can improve our goal work and support our students. So thank you guys for that.
We are so grateful for the passionate coaches we have and for transportation and all that they do for us as well. This is our current reality. I am so amazed at all that our teachers do in small spaces. This is our one changing room. You can see that there's a stall in the back and there's 2 changing tables on each side. We try to provide dignity. It's a small space that we can squeeze into. Sometimes we have all 3 filled at once. On the next page, we've got a picture of my office, actually doubles as a conference room. We have had up to like 12 people in there before. Once you get possibly 2 sets of parents or 1 set of parents, and we get a speech therapist, occupational therapist, physical therapist, we get adapted PE, we get a school psych in there. We might have a nurse in there. Anyway, you can tell that's our conference room. I keep a set of chairs over there on the side just for that. Here's our entrance with a ramp on it. Unfortunately, when we have to exit, like if there were an emergency or anything, we have that one ramp that we just roll everyone down as fast as we can. The next one is our lovely lunchroom. There's our lunchroom. So our classrooms / lunchrooms / on-campus job sites / training rooms for coaches. Those are our classrooms. We use every inch of space as well as we can. We pack everything into there. Last but not least is our room of requirement, as Whitney has called it. Our room of requirement started out as a sensory space, as you can see in the upper right. Well, we have some bean bags and we have some nice lights and stuff. Physical therapists came in and kind of took over. We've got standers in there for some of our students in wheelchairs. We have a platform on the wall that lays They kind of took that over. But the problem is that we do not have enough space for all of our related servers to individually meet with the students. So we put dividers up and we just try to use that room to as much as we possibly can. Next one is we have a dream. This is our dream for more space. If we could beg for one thing, it would be more space. You know what? We don't even care what the outside of the building looks like because we focus on all that we do on the inside. I'm going to cry. We focus on all that we do on the inside. So we don't care what the outside looks like. Give us a dignified space that honors secondary students who are becoming adults in our community. We need room to grow. Our population is growing. We're close to 90. We're going to grow up to 100 and more in the next couple of years. We need room for more job sites. We have ideas for more job sites. These people are amazing. We need room for those job sites. If we just had more space, we could do a larger bathroom area. We have one bathroom with 2 stalls for females, 2 for males for our population of 90. We could do, have related servers have their own rooms or a room if they different days or whatever. We could have space for that. We could have room. We could have a true sensory room just for sensory room if students were having a behavior or something like that. We would have a place to take them rather than the hallways or outside or in the classroom. We wouldn't mind having a space for a nurse instead of our poor secretary having a big cabinet and the nurse sharing space with her when we do have a nurse. We need a cafeteria. We need a gym. Just have to say, since I saw Tim back here, we are so grateful for Vista. And they allow us to use their auditorium, their gymnasium. We use a lot of their space and we appreciate it. Just going to turn the time over to Whitney just to end up.
Okay, so here today with us are 2 students, Nicole, who just shared, and Sebastian. And I want to share a little bit about Sebastian's story, but I want him to speak first. So will you come up and speak for us first?
I love being Peter Pan and I love ATEC.
Hey. So we've invited Sebastian and his mom to come share a few words about Sebastian and inclusion at ATEC West. What you're looking at is a picture of Sebastian in the school play. He was the lead. He played Peter Pan in our production of Peter Pan last year. So Mom, come up and share about Sebastian.
Sebastian, I think some of you know. Anyway, he's really enjoyed his time at ATEC, and they really do an amazing job. So Sebastian goes to the bowling alley. He's got wear that every day to school so that he can go make girlfriends at every one of his job sites, because he comes home and he's like, I've got this girl I need. So everywhere he goes, he makes friends. He with the people that work there, and he just loves it. He loves it so much being there. This is his last year, and I'm kind of sad to see everybody go, but it's been amazing, and these people are amazing, and I appreciate them. And yeah, they're asking for a building, and I second that they get another building. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you so much. So I had the privilege of being Sebastian's director as we put on this production of Peter Pan. Do you want to come closer to me? I feel like you're kind of... Okay, fantastic. So Sebastian, do you remember when we held auditions for Peter Pan? I gave every student the opportunity to raise their hand. Who wants to be Peter Pan? Sebastian raised his hand. Me, Peter Pan, I want Peter Pan. Did you tell me on your board? I want to be Peter Pan. I want to be Peter Pan. No one wanted it more than Sebastian. And at ATEC West, we are the epitome of inclusion, the epitome of exceptional education. And so we did a lot of really cool things to make it possible for Sebastian to be Peter Pan. As you can see in this picture, he has an aide that acts as his shadow, that acts as his voice, and Sebastian's the one emoting and laughing and sword fighting. And what we do really at ATEC is so incredible. And this is just one example of the inclusion, the level of inclusion that we can provide. So just imagine what more we could provide for our students to help them succeed, to help them grow, to be the star of the show. If we had more space to do that. So we thank you so much for your time. That's our presentation.
Thank you all for being here. There were some very dramatic sword fights, and Sebastian, I was really impressed with you. Yeah, it was intense. I was on the edge of my seat for that one. Appreciate all of you guys for being here, all the work that's done at ATEC West. Please know that we share that dream. We are working on it, and we hope to have some ideas, some presentations in the next 2 months. Okay, thank you. Next up, world languages. Jody.
Hello, everybody. I am Jody Lindsay, and I am representing Alpine School District. I'm currently the World Languages Specialist. We have in Alpine School District 9 languages that we teach. We have almost 16,000 students, and this excludes our DLI. This is levels 1 through AP. We have 116 teachers, and we have 16 blended teams. So your teachers out west, we collaborate from all corners of Alpine School District. Margot?
I'm Margot Silero. I teach French at Vista Heights. Clicker. World languages at Lake Mountain. Look like all of this, these beautiful faces. We have 4 languages offered in Lake Mountain. We have ESL, Chinese, French, and Spanish for a total of about 20 teachers. We have 2 clusters. We have Cedar Valley High School and Westlake. Numbers for you. And this is us. We actually met yesterday for the first time, trying to build bridges, trying to connect with this new team that we will start being on next year. We realized at that meeting 2 important things. We're all very different, but we're all very excited to start working together and collaborate together and find out our common ground. We found the Lake Mountain School District vision that's posted on the website. And as we looked into it, as we read it, we thought, this is exactly what world languages do in Lake Mountain. So I reached out to all the language teachers of our district, asking, how do you see your class fit 4 points? And I was overwhelmed with all the responses from all the teachers. I have some examples to show you. We'll just share this presentation with you so you can look at them in more time. But we've got Chinese, so much culture, and Chinese New Year celebration, and Chinatown field trip, and arts, and more arts.
Not sure how 我可以跟别的人说中我说中文，老师可以帮我，哥哥和姐姐说中文，所以我可以说，爸爸和妈妈不可以，爸爸说什么。
It keeps going on, and it's beautiful, and I hope you take the time to watch it all. We've got Chinese New Year celebration that happened last week at Sage Canyon, I believe. We have lots of things happening in the French classes, international cinema,
have French club at Westlake. We have every year we go to the Christkindl the Christmas market, the German Christmas market in Salt Lake, in Salt Lake. And this year we actually merged Westlake, Lake Mountain, and Vista Heights all went together. That was fantastic. We have cheese tasting. We have projects about the Francophone world going on in Lake Mountain, Vista, and Westlake. We have Westlake doing Le Dîner en Blanc, the white dinner every year. Lots of things happening. Vista Heights learn how to make croquembouche for Christmas, like those structures. Of course, we tried baguette. Like there's so much culture. There's so much happening. Spanish, we have El Día de los Muertos. Students working on benefits of learning a language. I actually want you to one from Sage Canyon.
Hi, my name is Isaac, and I am learning Spanish in Sage Canyon Middle School. Something I learned from Spanish was speaking and responding in complete sentences. I use my Spanish with my only Spanish-speaking friends, and this has helped me a lot to connect and talk with others. I recommend the world language class to anyone.
ASL actually asked me to share an invitation with you. Mark your calendars for March 18th, where during their celebration of learning, they will be performing a play, Little Red Riding Hood. And I love on their invitation, notice how it says voice interpreters will be provided for signing impaired. We'll make sure to get you this invitation so you can attend if you would like.
So back in 2018, 2019, the world language teachers came together and said, what do we actually all believe in? What can we all get behind? And we decided that we exist because we are building global citizens, meaning people who can connect to their neighbors. And we do this two ways, through building proficiency, the ability to communicate, and through cultural understandings, being able to understand different cultures. And so we are here today to talk a little bit about evidence of student learning in these areas. We're always saying that if we want students who can read complex texts, who can connect with others, solve problems, and think critically, then what kind of learning actually has to happen in the classroom for our students? And we believe that world languages does all of these things. And so today, what we are going to show you is what evidence of learning actually looks like in our classrooms. We would like to show you the data, a little bit of data. I have some in the packets that I've sent you, and also digitally that Julie is going to forward to you. We're going to show you data that tells us about academic impact outside of world language classes. And then the last thing that we would like to propose to you is what this means for graduation pathways as you are starting a new school district. So the first thing, if you took a world language class back in the 1900s, you would probably have been exposed to a lot of vocabulary lists and grammar trees, and those are all pieces of world language. We need vocabulary, and we need people to speak succinctly. But today, you will find in world language classrooms that we are using authentic texts that are designed by natives for natives, and our students can expect to see these outside of our classrooms. They're not fabricated stories like we used to use. We listen for meaning. We write with less scaffolding. We're not just teaching students how to string together sentences. We are teaching academic writing in their second language. We also are learning how to speak to negotiate meaning, which is a fabulous skill for all adults. And so there are some examples we brought here of what this looks like. In a French classroom, for example, the students might start again with language, and then they're able to they've been guided by their teacher to create a topic sentence. And then this is in level 1. And then they're supporting sentences. So we are doing things in our world language class that are transferred to other that are transferring outside of the classroom. A couple student testimonials that we thought would be interesting. from Margot's students. She asked them, how does learning French help you in your other classes? And we've identified in the highlighted areas here, I'm identifying meaning from context. That is a transferable skill. I'm writing main ideas. And it's helped me understand the larger words. So there's a lot of transfer that is happening when we are in a world language class to impact our first language outside. Moving here. French classes help me write essays and paragraphs in my English and history classes. I'm using more transition. We're always trying to teach them, here's ways you can say more. And now they're doing this in their other classes. So how is this working so far in Alpine School District? I would like to show you some of our data that we have been able to collect because we have had the resources and funding to test our students in reading, writing, speaking, and listening. I am going to start with ASL, which we've only had testing for a few years for them, and we are testing their ability to watch somebody sign something and show they understand, and then them also being able to sign something and get their point across. So in 2024, this is what our testing looked like. Red means below level, and these are levels that we have created based on how we understand proficiency and what a student should be able to do by the end of the school year. So you can see in this in 2024, our first level 3, level 4 testing, we had a certain percent that were a little under below what our hope was. We had approaching, meaning they're one proficiency sub-level away from the target. And then green means they hit the target and blue is above. So you can see that our ASL students 2 years ago in this area of receptive, meaning somebody else signs and they are watching the signing and they're showing what they can understand. Notice in this upcoming or last year in 2025, we made some improvement in the above level, and that is what the receptive mode looked like. If we move to expressive, their ability to sign in 2024. You can see here what the data looked like. We still had about half of our students approaching and below level. And then you can see how in 2024, the power of PLCs, they took that data, they went back into their teams and said, what can we do differently? What do we keep doing the same and what do we do differently? And you can see that there was a lot of progression made. And then for the composite scores, this is where you put both of them together. You can see that we are moving students in ASL. In fact, what did this look like for the syllabi literacy? If you look in 2023, we had about 39 ASL students seniors who earned the SIL. In 2024, we jumped up to 63. And then last year, in 2025, we jumped up to 145 students. That is the power of PLCs, and it's the power of really good testing and being able to, again, take the results and what can we keep doing and what can we change. Next, all of your spoken languages. This is levels 3, 4, and AP that are all going to be combined here. This is junior highs, your 9th graders that have level 3, and those are mostly on the south side of our district, okay? So I want to start with speaking. This is typically the hardest mode to develop. It takes the longest. You can see back in 2022 where we started, we had quite a few that were at level and above, but you can see that we had a significant amount that were below level. You can see over the years our improvement. We're moving more students out of the red. We're moving more into the yellow, and we are especially moving more students in speaking into the green and the blue. Last year, we were thrilled. We tested more students last year. So it looks like the blue, we made a huge jump. We actually were about the same percentage. But the beautiful thing is, again, we're shrinking the red and we're we're moving more to green on level and blue above. Listening, this is our students hearing the target language and then they're answering questions about it. You can see here from 2022 to 2025, we have made significant gains in this area. Our world language leadership team has used this data as we have been preparing our professional learning, and so that we can meet teachers and then impact our students where they're at. Writing. This one is very important to us. This is a skill that goes way outside of the world language classroom, right? And we have invested a lot of our resources into bringing in experts to teach us how to teach our world language students these, topic sentences, how to create an argumentative essay in our upper level courses. And look at the growth that world language students have made in the area of writing. Last, reading. As I mentioned before, we value authentic resources. We're not fabricating stories anymore. We're authentic resources. This was the area when we first started testing in 2021, 2022, that we noticed it was a weakness of ours. And even on our lower level team said, we better. And look at how much better we have done in the last several years. So we had, when I started teaching in the 1990s, I was told, you are a teacher of literacy. And yet I knew I was, I just didn't have maybe good evidence of student learning. And that is what I have loved about this Apple testing, is it really reinforces that we are teachers of literacy, and what happens in our classroom impacts these contents outside of our classrooms. So last year in Alpine School District, we had almost 900 students who earned the Utah Seal of Biliteracy. Your new Lake Mountain School District, what that looked like for last year, we had 174 seniors who earned the Utah Seal of Biliteracy. This is our longitudinal Seal of Biliteracy data. From 2013 to 2020, schools were just investing, if a teacher wanted to get testing for the Seal of Biliteracy, these were a lot of our DLI students. And when the district started looking at our PLC work, and they were so impressed, and they said, what do you need? And I said, I need resources. I need money to fund this Apple testing. And you can see here how we started using our data in 2021. We were able to test students, and then we were able to take that data and go back and revisit in our PLCs our Tier 1 instruction and assessment. And you can see how we have really been able to improve the student learning experience in Alpine. We believe that we can tie it to job-embedded professional learning. We can tie it into PLCs and, of course, instructional coaching. When literacy grows, so does everything else. World language learning does not just stay in the classroom. We have some in your packets. I have some resources, and I have digital links that Julie will forward to you. Students who study world languages score higher in ACT, SAT, and it's not just a little, it's quite a bit more. And we know that when students are involved in good world language practices, they just are going to perform better in science, ELA, math, in all the different contents. And so there are so many benefits for learning language that go beyond the classroom.
Some examples that students shared with us about how what they learn in their world language class transfers to real life.
And one time I used my world language real life was Yellowstone, and some Chinese were off the path that they were supposed to. I spoke to them in Chinese to help them go back on the path. They were able to go back on the path. By learning language is important because it's helpful to talk to other people that may not in English. Also just helpful with learning stuff.
Okay, hi, I'm a student here at Sage Canyon. I'm a learner, and I think that learning another language, because it basically teaches how to words, and it an easier problem-solving skill. And one example of this in my life was one time we had but we got to like go to a restaurant or speak to a native speaker and basically like order food or something. And I carried out a pretty long conversation with him. And I surprised myself because I didn't think I could speak, but it just all my brain got problem solving because I could switch from
some testimonials from teachers, from students. Brian Pendleton, a BYU professor, he had a stroke and he kind of lost his ability to speak, but he knew German, I believe. Yes, he knew German. And because he knew German, he was able to relearn English and he went back to teaching. So that was one other great benefit of languages. We also, yesterday when we met with all the Lake Mountain School District World Language teachers, we shared about how the language class, students get to share a bond with each other. Relationships get created in the classroom. They're forced to speak to each other and they're forced to present in front of the class. They're forced to go outside of their comfort zone. And those skills transfer in every other area of their life. Particularly loved this one. Our ASL teacher, one of our ASL teachers shared that because it's a visual language, students are required to look at each other, and it helps students who, for example, have autism because they're forced to do the eye contact. So did you? Okay, I'll keep going. What does this mean for graduation pathways? If world languages build literacy, if they raise achievement, what message do we send when they're optional? The USB or
So USBE requires 24 credits for graduation. And right now, Alpine requires 28. There's not a difference in diploma. There's no difference. 24 credits, 28. And so what we would like for you to wrestle with and to maybe consider some of our suggestions is we would like to, for you to consider whether it's a tiered diploma, something that distinguishes the difference between 24 required credits and maybe 28 or 29, whatever you choose to do. And we would love to see some form of a world language pathway, because research shows, and Alpine research shows, that we are building skills outside of world language that are impacting science, math, ELA, and so forth. So in your packet, I believe on the stapled page, I'm going to be showing some options that we are, that these weren't just created. I was able to attend a national conference back in November where I got to interact with district and state leaders throughout our nation. And I went with the goal to find out what are other districts. And there were so many districts who have a tiered diploma with a world language pathway or requirement. I also looked at what other school districts in Utah are doing. And so these are going to be some options, and they're stackable. So for example, option number 1, world language could be a graduation requirement. We could require 2 or 3 consecutive years, depending on the level of proficiency that you would like to see the students achieve. Option 2 is to provide a tiered diploma, a 24 credit standard versus 28. The state of Virginia is doing this. Actually, there's several states peppered throughout the Northeast and East that now have a tiered diploma with a world language pathway. Option 3, a district could sponsor a world language graduation recognition where the district could say, we would like to give a cord or a special recognition for 2 or 3 years of a world language. Option 4, a high school could do the same. The high schools could say, we would like to honor those students who have completed either 2, 3, or 4 years of a world language. Option 5, we would love to see districts, our new district, Lake Mountain School District, fund the Apple and stamp testing, because we are using this in our PLCs, and you can see the growth from our students. It is impacting, this testing is making it to the teacher, and it's taking it right back into the classroom. We are growing students. Option 6, high schools could fund the syllabi literacy testing, the Apple and the stamp testing. This would still allow for a syllabi literacy cord. It still would allow for teams to be able to have the Apple and Option 7 is to partner with CTE. I've been digging into this one. We do have states back east. They see world language as a skill. And CTE is all about world career and college skills. This one would need to go to the legislators in Utah to pass legislation to umbrella world languages under CTE. And option number 8, this is to continue to permit and foster opportunities for our students to be able to interact with other students in the world. You may be aware that Skyridge has a very strong program, partnership for Chinese, where our students go to Taiwan and with the Taiwanese, and those students also come back here and they learn with ours in the fall. World languages is a literacy-rich pathway. We think it should be required in some form, and we think that it is a really great way of embedding these college and career-ready skills into our students. Margot has looked over some of these stackable options, and what do you?
After talking to lots of district leaders, I was able to also attend the ACTFL conference back in November, talking to our teachers at Lake Mountain School District. I mean, obviously, option 1 is what we would dream of. We also understand that a new district might not have the budget to fund every language for, no, not every language, every student would need to take a language. So we understand the challenges. So a more approachable option that we would recommend would be option 2, stacked with options 5 and 8. So option 2 would be the creation of a tiered diploma, allowing for more recognition for students who choose to learn a world language. Option 5, districts continue to fund the Apple test and the STEM test. If we leave this in the hands of high schools, what might happen is some high school will fund it, some high schools might not fund it. It would be harder to collect data and compare our data throughout the district. So district-funded Apple testing and STEM testing would be ideal for us. And finally, option 8. We currently have a lot of teachers in Lake Mountain School District, including Angela Cooper right here, myself, Gonzalo Silero over there, going on students' trip to Europe, but they're not, we can't offer this, like, they're very expensive. It's really hard. It can't not be district approved. But what if we would get something like they do at Skyridge, like a partnership with a school district in France, where it becomes part of almost the curriculum to go travel abroad and live and learn from there. So those are options we would absolutely love to see in Lake Mountain School District, and we would appreciate you taking the time to discuss these.
So last, as we wrap up here, the tiered diploma, we believe, builds equity for our students, access and rigor. And I've just thought a lot about, a graduation pathway or a requirement really shows what a community values. And as I've studied your mission statement for Lake Mountain, I just think that this would be a really positive improvement upon what we have currently in Alpine. We've loved how in the different schools that you have been saying to the teachers, hey, we are not scared of doing hard. We're not scared of being crazy when it comes to, let's think outside of the box. We invite you to consider what we have shared with you today. just so you know, Alpine School District World Languages is known not just in Utah. We have not just built credibility within our state. We have built significant credibility outside of the state. And we would love to see Lake Mountain pioneer what this really could look like moving forward in a new district. So we invite you to consider world languages as a graduation pathway. And as we wrap up today, we want to leave you with a little gift to remind you that Lake Mountain builds community and it also builds your world. So we have a little globe that we would like to leave with you today.
Jody, before you okay if we ask a few questions?
I'd love it.
Okay, perfect. Do you know roughly what the cost, you talked about the Apple and the stamp testing. Do you know what roughly the amount is per student? I know that sometimes we get a bulk discount on those things, but do you know roughly what it is per student?
Yes, right now with our current contract, they wanted to raise it to $22 a student, and I told them that's too much money, and so they locked me in at $20.
Okay.
Stamp is a little bit, I can't say that. I don't know what Stamp has, I don't know their current contract with DLI, if they're trying to match what Apple is. Historically, Stamp has been a little more expensive.
So I'm assuming you're making the same recommendation to the other two districts, to Aspen Peaks and Timpanogos.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, has there been a discussion at all about us potentially being an MOU? Like, for example, like I think about Aaron Anderson's program, like, you know, like he's already kind of got the stuff. So is there a way that we could potentially do an MOU where maybe, you know, Aspen Peaks does the Chinese, but then Lake Mountain does French, but then Timpanogos does Spanish? Has there been a discussion at all about maybe each of us owning a language and then like developing a like a contract where basically we allow each other students to participate and cross lines on that?
No, we haven't. That is a fabulous suggestion.
Okay.
That's something that like school boards could work together.
Yeah,
Is
like
that
we could
something
definitely,
that-
we could definitely do an MOU. The only thing we need to check with is USBE because I'm not sure. Like, for example, I know that Mr. Anderson was trying to get credit for the students who were attending. And I know that we potentially have to go to USBE because I think sometimes there's a problem credit granting district to district. So that might be a little bit of a snafu, but we might be able to carve out an exception or something.
Yeah, that would be incredible because it would again be pioneering for the rest of the state if other districts were to see what the three districts had unitedly chosen to.
Yeah, well, I think that's awesome. I think it's something we definitely love to have a conversation with Timpanogos and Aspen Peaks about because, you know, any way that we can serve more students and bring that in, I think is a great way to participate. So
great.
I know that Board Member Strong also has a comment.
If this is a loaded question, we can put it off. But what is tiered diploma?
Right. So a tiered diploma, right now we have a basic diploma. This is the ground zero requirements you have to graduate from a high school in Utah. And right now the Utah State Board of Education says it's 24 credits and they outline what each of those credits should be. So Alpine right now says, well, we require 28 credits. And so a lot of districts around the nation and states around the nation and actually in Utah, they have a tiered diploma. So our 28 credits, this will be maybe an honors diploma, or a 30 credit would be a high honors. And some of them have attached ACT and your GPA. I love the idea of pathways because, you know, we might have students who, you know, might not have the highest GPA, but they're hard workers or they're showing progress in other ways. So that's how we interpret a tiered diploma. Something above the 24, but something that makes it more attractive for our students and for parents. We have an honors, our 28 credit, and it could be whatever. I just know in my community, they love the word honors and high honors and distinguished and things like that. So I think that could be very attractive for our students.
So if I was a high school senior, I could say I graduated with my diploma or I graduated with the honors
distinguished diploma.
That's what you consider tiered?
Yes, and that's a great way of describing that. Oh, yes, please.
Something I think our students have expressed
is they love our classes. They love the world language class, but they all say the same thing. This is such a hard class. And they end up the term with an A, but they put in so much effort. At the end, it gives them the exact same credit as taking a different elective that would be labeled like easier, more fun elective. I mean, ours is fun, but it's hard. And we want, in this day and age, especially after COVID, I think a lot of educators have noticed students don't want to do hard things. Students want to go the easy route, the easier way, which, I mean, it's part of our time and age, I guess, but there are still students in our world language classes more and more every year. And those students do the hard work. They work harder than others for the same results. That's kind of what the tier diploma would look like. Now, I believe that to get the higher, like the honors diploma, it's not just languages. Someone who takes, we just had talked to students about, well, what about AP Calculus versus a different class that gives credit? Like let's give, and looking at GPA, you might not have as high of a GPA, but it's just so much harder to get a high GPA in a language class. So those are ideas to take into account.
Margot, Jody, we really appreciate your time and coming out and all the opportunities that are provided through World Languages. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie.
Okay, next up we have transportation, and Rex has sworn he's not going to show all 98 slides. So, okay, comedian.
Okay, first, thank you for having us here today. Sorry, I'm a wanderer, so you'll probably have to shuffle me back. Yeah, we also have Rex Brimhall, our West Director, and David Ludwig, our East Director of Transportation. And so some of the information that you're going to hear tonight is a little bit of a recap of what we talked to you about a month ago. And so just to kind of refresh your memory and get you up to speed. And then the last part of our presentation goes into what we have some recommendations on bell schedules. But even before I begin, it was so interesting because as I watched the other two presentations, it warmed my heart, either directly or indirectly, to hear them speak of transportation and the importance that it plays in the educational system, right? With the ATEC presentation, they needed that transportation to get to their job sites. And of course, with the foreign languages, they need that transportation, to be able to visit and take those field trips. And this is a service that we love to provide. And that as we have a new opportunity for each of the 3 new school districts to kind of reimagine what transportation may look like, and that, kind of new vision will allow us, we hope, to provide more of those services to these schools, right? We're a support service. Our job is to provide access and opportunity, and that's what transportation does. So keep that in mind. Change is always tough. But we believe that some of the changes we're going to talk about will allow us to do even more than we're currently doing. And we do a lot. We do a lot of incredible things. Okay, wrong way. I'm just going to hit these very quickly because you've seen these before, but as you're aware, we do have some challenges currently in our school district with transportation. Our buses are crowded. We do have long ride times. We don't like to see our SPED students on the bus for over an hour, but increasingly we're getting pressed up against that. We were doing these double runs, which many of you are well aware of, and you know how inconvenient those are for students and families. A part of those double runs are also that we're picking up earlier than we'd like to, and we may be dropping off later than we'd like to because of those double runs. Activity drivers, which we'd like to see helping schools and doing things like field trips for foreign languages and taking students to job sites, are often now being assigned to routes. And same thing with our sub-drivers, right? So we've had to run very lean, especially in the beginning of the year and towards the end of the year as well, as we lose drivers to other businesses. As we go through our presentation today, we're going to hit on 3 real main topics, right? What are we going to do as far as repairing our buses? Because that'll be a hurdle for this district to wrestle with. We're going to talk about school start and end times and some options there. And we're going to just touch a little bit on ineligible ridership. How do we address that in all three of the districts, but particularly in your district, in the Lake Mountain District? Okay, so current realities. So again, as we pointed out in our first presentation, you guys are at a huge advantage because you have all of these things in place. In fact, just right down the road from here, right next to Westlake High School, we have a fantastic transportation facility. We have training room in there. We've got covered stalls. We were just out at the Jordan District, and they have a very nice building, but none of their stalls are covered for their drivers, which we think is a great advantage for a variety of reasons. We have a fuel station, which is a great benefit to the district and saves a lot of money. We have employee parking, and we do minor repairs at our current facility, right? We have a couple of containers. We're able to do some little things here and there. Essential needs, okay? These are the items that we think will be necessary for this school district to have, the best transportation department that they possibly can. We'd like to see a service center being built, right? This is something that we've wanted since we built the facility many years ago, but to get that service bay built, a bus wash along with that, additional bus and employee parking, right? We've literally grown out of our current space, and we continue to grow as the district grows, and CDL space to train and an approved course, which is important. We do all of our training in-house for new drivers, so we like to have that space to be able to train them on our yard, right? Because that's the safest place to do that until we feel comfortable that we want them out on the road. So we like to do that training inside of our facilities. All right, possible solutions, okay? Short-term contracted service through Aspen Peaks. So again, keep in mind that we're really doing this already, right? Because we don't have a service center out here, we're taking all of our buses and we're bringing them into the East Yard already. So this is, for the most part, already happening. And because of the software that we use in our maintenance facility and in our shop, we're able to, get down to every part, hours of labor. And so we are already keeping track of how much money we were spending, the time, costs, and everything on each individual bus. So this is already happening. So we feel like it can continue to happen successfully until the point in time when you're ready to, build that shop. You could try to reach out and contact a third-party vendor and see if there's any interest in, pursuing that. And then, of course, long-term is getting that facility built. And here is a picture of your current facility right now. And you see that space to the west of our facility. If that turns out to be a good space to build on to what we have right now, fantastic. If there are other options, that's great as well. And please, as we go through this, if you have questions, please interrupt me or any one of these other two and ask those questions, because this presentation is for you. And if we're not addressing what you want to hear, the questions that you have, please make sure you ask.
All right, Joe, you gave me permission.
Yes.
How much space do you need? I hadn't thought about the driving range. How much space do you need for a driving range? Because I'm guessing it's not traditional driving range like the ones we stick on the asphalt or whatever.
Yeah.
How much space?
So as far as square footage, I couldn't answer that with any accuracy. But because we have a large space and there's open room in our east facility, we're able just to kind of make our course kind of on the outskirts of our facility. But the problem with our west facility is that we've just outgrown it and we have buses literally parked everywhere. So that makes it much more challenging to be able to do that. So just if we pushed out west or we had some more room, then you're able to kind of practice those different skills. So we parallel park, we angle park, we serpentine through cones. We do a lot of different things to hone those skills. And really all we need is just space. Now, can we do this somewhere else? Yes, but again, it's a lot safer on our facility where it's a controlled environment and we know what's around us. So that's why we prefer to do it right there. Okay, Dave.
Hi, my name's David. I work in the East Compound. I've been there for 2 years. I'm the junior, you gentlemen. If you'll allow me, I'll just take a few minutes to go through the legislative language that we found, our interpretation, and then the reasons why we used these for our numbers in this presentation. The first one we found talked about asset division. And this one says in the green there that assets for student transportation should be divided by the eligible state-supported transportation routes. And if you remember from last time, we described a route as like a teacher's schedule for a bus driver. And our preference, of course, would be let's go to eligible ridership, which is a smaller detail and a little bit easier to track. And then we found this one that talks about personnel. And this one should be divided by the proportion of student population within a district. And our interpretation of that is, well, our student population is total ridership. And for this presentation, we used total ridership versus total population. Going forward, if you have a different preference, we're happy to recalculate those numbers. But for the purpose of this presentation, those are the two metrics we used. And here they are side by side, assets divided by eligible state-supported transportation route or eligible ridership for us, and then personnel divided by total ridership. Was that a question coming up? Go ahead.
I just wanted to know if you had broken it down to the eligible riders as we worked through the numbers, or if we were staying at routes.
You bet. Let me go through a couple of slides, and if I don't answer, you can ask again. So if we look at total students by percentage, these are the three new districts, their student populations, and their percentages. If we break that down by ridership, total ridership, eligible and not eligible, the percentages adjust. And then finally, if we look at eligible only, they adjust again. And I'll show you all three of those in the same slide deck. So you'll see that Lake Mountain benefits the most from eligible ridership. Their percentages increase. As we look at support staff, when we think about staffing a future transportation office, there are all these different needs that need to be filled. These are specialty skills that we don't have, that folks train and master, and then they own that portion of the logistics within the transportation department. We also have a service center with those same specialty sets of skills. And if we were to decide how many people we think would be needed for a Lake Mountain transportation department on their own, we think you would need 23 and a half people. However, if we take that percentage of of total ridership divided by our current people, you would only get 17, almost 18. If we look at contracted drivers, and this is important as we come up on Thanksgiving and have to offer or have the opportunity to offer contracts to our contracted employees, our department has 96 driver FTE that we work with. And we have a combination of 4-hour, 5 and 6-hour contracts that we offer our drivers. And that's 159 drivers currently as of this last month that we have on either a 4-hour contract, like they're doing a regular route, or we have driver trainers or activity drivers, permanent subs that have a 5 or a 6-hour contract. And that's what eats into that 96 FTE. If we use that percentage multiplied by those numbers, FTE-wise, Lake Mountain would have 36. And if we look at contracted drivers, you would be looking to offer about 60 contracts to drivers as we approach that January deadline. And then here's all that same information on a single slide for you. Let me pause and see if there were any other questions that came up from that. Okay, with that, Mr. Rex.
Much like Joe, it's going to be difficult to stand in one spot, being a former world language educator. But if I slip into Spanish, I apologize. So this is one of the buses we're going to surplus. Let's look at the emissions coming out of that. So currently, for this school year in Alpine School District, we operate on a 3-tier, what's called a 3-tier system, meaning we transport at 3 different times for 3 different starting and ending bell schedules. So being served on 46 regular ed buses. And just as kind of a little side note, what we're going to talk about here is primarily or exclusively regular ed. We don't have the special ed numbers, but they will be incorporated in this once we have the numbers. And we'll pair those with the routes that we build. So currently, if you look on tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, if you notice tier 2, there are 60 routes or 60 trips. And that's just way too many. We don't have the drivers to drive all those trips at that time. So what we naturally do is we kind of morph it into a 4-tier system and split out that second tier and end up double running to almost all, if not all, of our junior highs, which has been mentioned is not an ideal scenario for schools, for us, for students. So we artificially create that 4-tier system. In the morning right now, we drop off earlier than we want to drop off and end up being late the rest of the morning. And that happens again in the afternoon, where we drop off the first one kind of on time, and it just gets later and later, getting kids home later than we really want to get them home. So this is just a little bit of a kind of a graph showing what the information was on that previous slide. For me as a visual learner, it kind of helps a little bit more to put things in perspective. Again, in that middle, that third tier, there are 60 routes, 60 trips, and we just can't hit them all as efficiently as we'd like. Same thing in the afternoon. So historically, as we've done bell schedule studies, we really wanted to push going to a 4-tier system, because as Alpine as a whole, it made a lot of sense. We would be able to hit all the schools on time with that type of a tiering system and get kids to and from school. It would help our driver situation. And so that's kind of what we pushed for. But we're going to shift on that, pivot on that a little bit. The only way to not have double runs would be to split that tier, like we talked about before. And unless we're willing to split our junior high, middle schools and their trips among 2 different bell schedules, there'd be no reason to do a 4-tier system. It doesn't make sense. Let's look at this. This is what would be preferred for us, is to continue on a 3-tier system, 3 bell starting times and 3 ending times. And but the catch is we would need 45 minutes between each tier. As you know, our district out here, our portion of the district out in Lake Mountain, it's large, it's open, it's vast. We have a lot of area to cover, and in order to do that efficiently, we need that time between these tiers. So looking at that, we'd have 27 trips in the tier 1. Oh wait, Rex, you still got 60 trips in that middle section. So what are we going to do with that? So let's go on and look at this. We would propose that one of the junior highs be moved to a high school time. And that would then balance those times or those trips amongst those 3 bell times, those tiers. Okay, the one we have right here would be proposing a Vista Heights go to that time. And that balances it at 44 on the tier 1, 43 on tier 2, and 40 on 3. Yes, Julie.
I want you to know I'm watching Tim's reaction right now.
Look at that tattoo. Get nervous. That's all good. I figured he'd be excited just for a number of reasons, really. I did not, but having worked with you for, no. So this would be the preferred. There is another option. We could look at doing it at Frontier, but a challenge there is there are so many ineligible riders in City Center that would or could potentially jump on those junior high buses from the high school, jump on the junior high buses, get to and from school, and it would definitely overcrowd our buses, which we want to avoid. Okay? So again, here's kind of a visual and a chart of what that would look like. Starting at 7:30, next starting time 8:15, and the third at 9 o'clock. Now, there's been a lot of studies done in having high school start later, and that's fine. We just need these schools, these numbers of schools starting at those times, and we would make it work.
So Rex, what I just heard you say is that if we wanted to flip a high school to like a 9 o'clock so that they go later, that would be fine. But then we'd have to switch, and the same number of routes would have to go at 7:30.
Correct.
Okay.
And if 7:30 wasn't the time, push it to 7:40.
But the 45-minute rule is the issue.
Yes.
It's the 45 minutes.
It start at 8. And then whenever you start, 45 minutes between.
So if we do like 8, 8:45, 9:30, but it has to be a 45-minute gap between each of the tiers.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So again, just to reiterate that the 45 minutes between bells is the key, especially in the afternoon. Why it's preferred that all these schools then would be on a 6.5-hour day. Okay. Felt the secondary should go on the first 2 tiers, elementary and the last. But again, it doesn't have to be that way. It can't be around. And then there's a hyperlink to another document. I don't know that we need to open it right now. It's a lot of information. It's a spreadsheet, and it shows. Yeah, you guys should have a copy of that, but it just shows a variety of bell times, start times, and such. But thank you for your time. And yes, Eileen.
Our schools right now and what we have, and I'm assuming if an elementary comes on, that's not too big a deal. But as another junior high comes on or another, I don't want to go back to schools and say, okay, now you're a different time. You've been for the last 5 years time, but now we need to switch it. Obviously, a new school you could just say the new school is this, but how does that work as we add schools on, because we are in a high growth area?
Right, and this is going off of current boundaries and such, and we're constantly doing boundary studies and shifting things around, and that will continue. We're going to continue to grow out here, and one of the beautiful things about adding schools is sometimes that reduces busing needs, right? And we just shift those to areas where then it becomes more necessary. We'll continue to work on these studies and shift and pivot as necessary because we will grow. We know we're adding an elementary school this coming year and a high school the following, 2 years. And so we're going to study those boundaries and make those decisions as.
Yeah, I'm curious what the allocation would look like, knowing that the high school is just kind of around the corner. Foresee a high school being highly disruptive to the balance, more so than say single elementary addition.
Well, again, with that new high school, we'll see a good number of Westlake kids that will now become ineligible, depending on where the boundaries are, because now they become walking in that 2 months.
On that, I want you to be cautious of thinking that just because my children walk to Westlake, but if I go to the new high school, they would qualify for a bus. And I assume based on where I live, because it's right across from the junior high, that the new high school would be my boundary. So I think those boundaries may not, because those 2 high schools would be so close, they may not play out the way you think.
Right, and that's why I say it depends on the boundaries, how they.
Same.
Right, we're proposing right now that the 9 o'clock-ish time, all elementary.
Okay, do you have a question? Okay.
We haven't decided, as I said, this is just looking. But I think ideally what we'd like to see is some sort of, minimal offset, that they're not coming in at the exact same time, adjusting either of those schools either a little bit earlier or a little bit later. So making that adjustment to accommodate for the high number of buses that we. in those. And I think I'm sorry, I didn't know the protocol. We're taking questions from the audience. And again, I think to go back to your question earlier, we recognize that this is a high growth area and that you're going to be adding schools. And I think one of the biggest pleas from transportation for years has been, let us have a seat at the table as you're looking at start times and making those types of decisions. Because there are other districts and they play a very big role in deciding not only when new schools will start, but also if we do make time changes to existing schools, they have, an opportunity to share what's going to happen. And with the Alpine District, we have made it work, right, for years without really having a strong voice at the table about what starts when and if a school can go to a different start time, because we recognize that that has an impact on families and students, and that's hard. But when you don't allow transportation to have that opportunity to speak up, then we go back to that first slide of strained systems. We put a lot of pressure on it, and inevitably we end up having to do things like double runs and picking up elementary kids and dropping them off a half hour before school starts and picking them up 15 and 20 minutes after it ends. So we pay the price one way or another, right? Whether we have a voice or not, because we're going to bus those students. We're going to make it work, and it just becomes, a little muddier, a little uglier. We don't have the opportunity to provide input.
Joe, I hear that motivation is the discomfort of the difference, but is there also a money savings if we go to this kind of a system?
I think, so I know that we talked a little bit about contracts, right? All of our drivers currently are on 4-hour, well, not all of them, but the vast majority are on a 4-hour contract. And again, we have some 5 and 6-hour contracts, right? And so the more efficient we can be, right, then it's kind of one of those things where if we can have every driver have a tiered school, then we're getting more out of them. We may be able to offer a little bit bigger contract, which again is attractive to a lot of drivers. And that's why they, stay, is they're like, okay, I've got like a 6-hour contract, right? There are some districts that offer 8-hour contracts. And again, they recognize that they're probably not going to get 8 hours of driving out of that driver every day, but it does help retain those drivers so that they're not peeling off and looking for jobs in other industries or in other districts. And so, yeah, they lose a little bit on that financial piece, but they retain those drivers and they're not in this constant cycle of retraining, right? We'll probably train and lose close to 80 drivers, and that has been our pattern. Right? That has been our pattern for
80 per year?
80 per year, right? We are in this constant battle of they come and they go, and it would be nice to kind of exit out of that cycle and retain drivers for a little bit longer. You'd get better drivers, you'd have fewer accidents, you'd reduce the need for this constant training, which is pulling existing drivers off of their buses to come in and train new drivers. So it is kind of it's a tough, thing to keep going.
And correct me if I'm wrong, training a new driver is not an inexpensive task. So there's a significant cost savings by
We're paying them
maintaining
up
it,
to
by
60 hours for their training time, right? So we're investing in them. And like I said, we're pulling other drivers off of routes to come in and help train those drivers. So yeah, we're investing, and it's been, it's been successful to a degree, right? We do okay. But if we could, somehow incentivize, we do have an incentive program currently, but continue to incentivize by maybe offering longer contracts. That comes by being able to be more efficient, right? And as Rex mentioned, we have a 3-tiered schedule. Really got a high school that starts at 7:45 and an elementary that starts at 18 that are both on the same tier. So that divides, our resources, right? You can't be at a high school and an elementary school at the same time. You got to be at one or the other. Works nice for the 9:30 time. That's our favorite one. We always get to that 9:30 elementary on time. But think about in the afternoon when we dismiss school. What time does high school dismiss at? 2:15. What time does early elementary dismiss at? 2:15, we've got this mad rush at the same time. So again, we're making that work and we get there on time. That's why we'd like to go to this 3-tiered system. And there is precedent for moving junior highs to a high school start time, right? We're doing that on the east already with 2 junior highs. I don't know, Tim, counterparts. I mean, it seems to be working out okay for them. We recognize that there may be some issues with collaboration, but there are ways to overcome that. Okay, so 2 pillars, right? Yes.
Have you put any thought, if we did offer longer contracts, what you would utilize your drivers for in that midday?
Yeah, activities, right? So if they're contracted, then it would be activities, because most of the time with the contract, we're essentially paying a contract for the route and the activities are gravy. So, or we pay them hourly, right? So the activities would just become a part of their contract. You'd say, okay, you'd have to do so many activities to fulfill the rest of your contract. That's essentially how it would be made. And we know that there are, what did we do? Close to 10,000 activities last year. Yeah, we stay busy. Yeah, we were talking to Jordan and they thought, they were like, oh, we do like 8,000. We're like, that's a Monday for us. Yeah. So this final piece, and I'll go through this pretty quickly, is a space available program. And this may be one option to help with that ineligible ridership piece that we've talked about. So a space available program is just that. If there are spaces available, once we've taken care of all of our eligible riders, then we offer those spaces to ineligible riders. And different districts throughout the state are utilizing a program like this, and they all do it a little bit differently. But here are the districts that are currently utilizing some sort of space available program. The Jordan district, as I said before, they have a form that they just pull right off of Skyward. It shows them in the little bus section that they're not eligible, but it does show them that there's a form for space available. So they fill this out every year. Okay, you have to do it every year, and you have to go to a bus stop that's already in place. Like, we're not creating new stops for ineligible riders. So again, this is the same thing that's happening already, right? Ineligible riders are walking back towards eligible stops because that's shorter than walking to school. And the passes are issued in Jordan within 2 weeks after school starts. And in other districts, it's a little bit later, right? They're just waiting to make sure that the space is truly available. So this could be an option. Again, people fill out a form and they go from, if I'm 1.9 miles and there's somebody that's 1.4, then the 1.9 mile person gets the first spot available. And we just work our way back from there.
Do any of these districts charge these ineligible students that are riding buses?
They do not, because again, they're first filling it up as an eligible route. So we're getting the reimbursement from the state. And again, we know that the reimbursement isn't the full amount of what it costs to run a bus, but they're getting that reimbursement anyway. They're going to be obviously going to that school anyway. And again, you don't want a bus to show up with a school with, 40 kids when you can put 65 on there. And, again, what do we want to do? We want to get kids to school, right? That's our goal, is to get as many kids to school, because we know that provides access. That is how it all begins each and every day and ends. All right.
Can you remind me,
Yeah.
is state reimbursement based on route or number of students on a bus?
It's based on an eligible route. And so you have to have 10 students on the bus to be an eligible.
But then it's just paid per route?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can get partial payment depending upon certain factors. So there's degrees of what they'll reimburse you for, but yeah. Finally, again, as you consider options, and again, what we're kind of thinking for the Lake Mountain School District is that you start up your own transportation department right off the, get-go, that you partner with Aspen Peaks and create an MOU for your service needs. And again, these are some other things that you'll have to consider, and many of them we just already talked about. Software, right? We have several different software pieces, both in the department to help us route, track our buses, as far as maintenance is concerned. All of those things need to be taken into consideration. Student bus passes, which Rex has done a great job managing out here on the west side, where we do have some very full buses. And so we've been creative in developing some very, kind of simple bus pass systems. We talked about entry-level wages, driver incentive, sped routes, special ed vans to get those students to places where our buses can't go. And and kind of, the partnership with special ed when it comes to bus attendance, right? What are we going to do as a new district as far as getting bus attendants onto our special need routes, right? Again, Alpine, I think, has been very generous in trying to get as many special ed aides on our buses as possible. Other districts, they only do it for their most severe students in some of those school populations.
So in the Lake Mountain District, do we have routes where our buses can't go? I know throughout Alpine School District we do, but do any of those routes exist in the Lake Mountain area?
Over Bell Hill. Yeah, we're restricted by grade sometimes, the grade of the road, which again is a lot worse over there. Not as bad over here, but there's still some places. I guess in closing, right, we just ask that, and again, this is the first step, right? Having us come and visit with you shows your willingness to listen and to learn about what helps make the most efficient transportation department. But the bell times, the calendaring, the ineligible ridership, these gentlemen and our departments, they have solutions, they have ideas, they have ways that we think can reduce the stress and heartache that come with some of these problems. Just want to continue to work with you to work towards those solutions, right? You can remember a few years ago, right, when they changed the hour or the early out hour, right? Again, sometimes that doesn't seem like a big deal, but the ramifications for transportation were enormous. I mean, that was like to go from a Monday to a Wednesday, it was like, whoa, this is, this impacts us on a number of different fronts. So thank you for your time. Anything else, gentlemen? No, we appreciate your time and attention and look forward to working with you some more.
I have one more quick question.
Yeah.
If there is an early out day, and again, hypothetical ifs, is there a day of the week that is easier for you guys to route buses on?
I think, again, it just kind of depends on some other factors. When Alpine made the change, because of some of the things that were happening in the sped world, right, that impacted us a lot more than it would have, or maybe people thought it would. So again, if you look to make that decision, then we just want to be part of that conversation. I don't think we could identify a day right now, but if you said, hey, this is what we're thinking, and based on some other factors that are happening, then we can look at that and say, yeah, that will be really easy to accommodate, or that might cause some issues.
David, Rex, Joe, we really appreciate your time. Thank you for the details. Appreciate it. Okay, so our study session is complete. We are adjourned. Session at 6 o'clock. Thank you. Is 6 o'clock on Thursday, February 26th. I am calling to order the Lake Mountain School District Board of Education. First on the agenda, we have a Pledge of Allegiance. It's well, Matt, are you going to offer the pledge for us? Thank you. Hey, do we have any community comments? It's okay. We're just going to pause for a few seconds. Okay. Okay, so we don't have any community comments for tonight. Inspirational thought will be led by board member Saw.
In my world today, and so my thoughts that I plan to actually fit even more appropriately. But one thing I've been thinking about is there's so much going on in the world, and you always don't really know what's going on behind the scenes in everyone's individual lives, and it's not something everyone can always share. But I have some thoughts of just kind of thinking mind and being a good human to other people. Is a couple of thoughts I wanted to share. So, Reverend Ian McLaren said, "Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle." Every person who walks in this room, even every email received, every conversation in the hallway represents someone carrying responsibilities, pressures, and burdens we might never fully see. Fred Rogers reminded us that there are three ways to there are three ways to ultimate success. The first way is to be kind. The second way is to be kind. And the third way is to be kind. And Waldo Emerson wrote, "You cannot do a kindness too soon, for you never know how soon it will be too late." As we go through tonight's meeting and the rest of our agenda this week and going forward, as we work with the community, my hope is that we can continue to remember to be kind to everyone, because we never know what hidden battles people might.
Thank you, Board Member Saucer. First up on our agenda is the consent agenda approving the minutes from February 12th of 2026. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
So we have a motion by Board Member Isaacson. Do we have a second?
I second.
And a second by Board Member Judkins. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda with a motion by Board Member Isaacson and a second by Board Member Judkins, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That appears to pass unanimously. We only have one action item. I think our shortest board meeting was it 2 minutes? Okay, so I don't think we're going to break that record today, guys. Sorry. We only have one action item. It's the Lake Mountain School District Charter Authorization Application. Board Member Lincoln.
So last time I brought the application forward to you, what we were going to submit to the state. We also have to submit what the applications, if somebody wants to be a charter school, look like. So I've provided those in the packet tonight. They are mostly boilerplate, looked at Utah Tech, Granite School District, the Utah State Charter School Board, and then best practices out of the National Association for Authorizers to create those boilerplate applications.
Application.
I make a motion that we approve the Lake Mountain School District Charter Authorization Application.
So we have a motion by Board Member Strong. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Lincoln. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if your plans are to go over the 90 pages that you sent us, or?
I just did.
I was a little disappointed that you didn't.
Sorry, they're pretty standard applications. The process will be after we approve this tonight, I will submit it to the State Board of Education, and it will go on their Law and Licensing Committee meeting in March, and the date on that, I think, is around the 10th.
Thank you for all
13th.
your hard work
And
on
then
that.
in April, it will then go to the full State Board of Education if Law and Licensing recommends it.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank you for all your time for those 90 pages and the hard effort you put into it.
Okay, I think that you've answered my question, but once it goes through that process where, how quickly is it approved and into effect?
State code doesn't allow us to authorize a school till we've been an authorizer for 6 months. So this timeline that I worked out with Assistant Superintendent Deputy Jones, I'm going to give him a huge new title tonight, was if we submitted in March, then that would start our 6-month clock. And why that's important is if somebody brought together an application, we could then approve it in September of 2026, which means we could submit it to the state for the funding deadline for the 27-28 school year if we went down that pathway. It just opens a door for that possibility. Probably more realistically, we're looking at something potentially in the 28-29 school year.
Okay, great. And thank you for not presenting 90 pages individually. Nope, I move that we do not.
Inevitably, you find things as you use them that you want to change. What's the process for changing this application in the future? Not for us, the state, but in the process of somebody applying to become a charter.
I think we would just work through that at that time. We use such a boilerplate application that's based on state code that I don't know that we'll have a lot of changes that we implement as we go. But if we did, we would have to, just run that through the State Board of Education.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion by Board Member Strong and a second by Board Member Lincoln to approve the Lake Mountain School District Charter authorization application. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That appears to pass unanimously. And I forgot to tell you guys, the resolution, we actually approved it the last time. So the one that's on the agenda for today, we're not taking action on because we already did it because we're so far ahead of the curve.
You removed
So
50%.
Nice. Fine. It is now time for board reports if board members want to.
Just as a PSA of sorts, the upcoming Tuesday, it's the 3rd, yes? March 3rd, at Frontier Middle, we're hosting a staff Q&A. It's town hall style, essentially giving an update on the transition of the district split, where we're at, what we're working on, what we've already accomplished, what's next. We hosted one, I think it's been a couple of weeks in Eagle Mountain, in Saratoga Springs, and had quite a few employees come and ask questions, and it was good. It's nothing fancy, just sharing information and making connections. And so we'll repeat that in Eagle Mountain this upcoming week and hope to repeat these periodically during this transitional period to make sure we have lots of communication and opportunities to connect with staff. I know they have ongoing questions and questions come up, and so this is an opportunity for them to come in a pretty casual way and connect with us.
Okay, seeing no other lights, we actually do have need for a closed session. So we need a motion to go into closed session per Utah Code 52-4-205 to discuss personnel, property, or litigation. Do we have a motion to go into closed session?
I move to go into closed session per Utah State Code 52-4-205 as needed to discuss personnel, property, or litigation.
And then do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Board Member by Board Member Lincoln and a second by Board Member Saucer. We're going to do a roll call vote. Board Member Strong.
Aye.
Board Member Myers.
Aye.
Board Member Isaacson.
Aye.
Board Member King, aye. Board Member Lincoln,
Aye.
Board Member Judkins,
Aye.
Board Member Saucer.
Aye.
Okay, so we are adjourned to closed session at